Welcome to the Studio-littleBold podcast, where vision meets execution, creativity finds clarity, and mentorship unlocks potential. I'm your host, Abigael Osidiana, and this is the space for designers, dreamers, and change makers looking to build bold ideas and shape the future of interior design. Hello, my name is Abigael Osidiana. I'm an interior designer with a decade in experience, and I'm also the founder of Studio-littleBold. Studio-littleBold is an interior design consultancy based in Nairobi, Kenya, that focuses on residential, new builds, and interior design education. Today, I want to have a conversation on the difference between coursework and internships or your first job as an interior designer. I've invited an interior designer within the industry to have this discussion so that we can learn from each other and empower other aspiring interior designers. Karibuni sana. Rispa.
Hi.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Rispa Atieno. I am the project manager and creative director at Chianda Interior Design Studio. We deal with both commercial and residential interior design and interior fit out. Just to give a little bit of a background on myself, I studied interior design at Buruburu Institute of Fine Art. That was for 3 years. And then from there, I entered basically the job market, started working at a small interior design firm for about, I'd say, 2 years. Then I found that basically there was a need to upskill myself. And then I joined Moi University, did a degree in project management for a period of 4 years. So after that, I continued with my journey in interior design. And that's basically the brief
Intro
about myself.
So let me ask, actually, on the project management, when you were doing that, were you still practicing interior design, or now that's a pause? Now you've paused interior design, you've gone back to school. How did that work out?
Actually, what I did was I studied as I was working so that I felt like there was a need to refine how I implement projects. And I felt like the refinement had to come from a direction of project management. So I actually was working and at the same time going to school to study project management.
So that means during the day, so it's an evening class kind of dynamic, or what was the exact dynamic?
So I would go to school in the evening. During the day, I'm working. So our classes would be from 6 to 8 p.m. Yes, this was Moi University. They had a Nairobi campus at the time.
So before you even got into now the project management, you've explained why you felt like you needed it, but why did you choose interior design in the first place? What inspired you? What drove that?
For me, interior design has always been something I was interested in since I was younger. I think the beginning of it came from my dad was an electrical engineer. So when I was younger, he would actually take me around to some of his projects. And some of his projects would actually be doing residential electrical fit out for some of his friends. It was not part of his core work, but it would be for some of his friends. So with that, I got interested in construction to some point. And then that kind of led me into interior design because I would watch basically some of the shows on interior design on DSTV.
Okay.
Back then. So home fit out projects back then. And it would really be intriguing seeing how people put together their homes, how people put together different spaces. And I think I've always had also an interest in building things from scratch, like seeing construction from scratch to the finish. I feel like to some level, I know interior design has its rough edges.
Yeah.
But my juicy part is when now you get to the softer side, when the paintwork now starts to flow in, when you feel the merging of the tiles that you've selected and the lighting and the soft furnishing coming together. That's what usually just gets me a bit excited.
So that's interesting for you to learn, because you guys, believe it or not, her dad was an electrical engineer.
Yes.
My dad was a mechanical engineer.
Wow.
What?
What
And
a
typically for that type of engineering, it's called MEP. So
Yes.
mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
plumbing.
So usually, I think the engineers at the uni do all, and then now you specialize later on.
Yes.
So it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Perhaps I can also just tell you mine. So for me, it's now two ways. Now my dad is MEP, and I'm a mechanical engineer, and my brother is an architect. So my older brother is there's a huge age gap. So I remember when we were selecting what to do in universities, and I was going around like UON, etc., just moving around trying to see what I want to do.
Yeah.
I initially wanted to do architecture like him. And I remember him telling me, but he actually has an architectural firm both in Kenya and in Rwanda. So I remember him mentioning, but why do you want to really struggle that much to do architecture? And you can do interior design and still make the same amount of money or more. And I was like, because you see, architects do 6 years.
Yes.
Interior designers do 4. Yeah. So for him, he always looked at it from the perspective of, one, he really pushed me into select a career that you can employ yourself. I remember him really ringing that in my head. Select something that you can employ yourself. Again, select something that's flexible. You're a woman, you may want time with your family, you may want time with kids, So why not have the best of all worlds? It's flexible, you can make the same amount of money, and you don't need to do the 6 years. And I was sold.
That's actually a good direction to look at it. You had a good advisor.
Yeah, so I just leaned on that, and I just went with the flow. Yeah, so for me, it was never really my dream to do interior design. I just went on a tangent. Yeah, but now still on that education, I want to know what you think education, or how you think education has shaped your career.
Okay, I'd say with I'll emphasize on this. Buruburu Institute of Fine Art focused on technical work. Your coursework is more technical than theoretical, which I'll say I thank God for, because when you hit the job market itself, no lie, you hit the ground running. There's no please, can you, there's no, let me slowly, okay, I'll say from my direction. Me, I was put into a project, like you're the lead on this project, take it away. And I'd say that the education bit of it, the theory is important. When you come to now the industry itself, the theory is important, because there are things like scale and balance, which plays a role in implementation. Because, for example, you can't have a sofa that is not well balanced with a coffee table.
Correct.
Or you can't have a coffee table that is the same height as a work desk.
Correct.
So I'd say in the educational bit of it, it gives you the theory of understanding how human form works together with a space. And at the same time, it also helps you understand things like history of interior design and how basically people used to work on things in the past, and how you can even implement it on the current and form like your own niche of interior design. In the same essence, with the theoretical part of it, I'd say it gives you a direction on how to communicate with your clients. Because most of the time you'll come in and sit down on consultation with your client, and your client tells you, I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
That is a common thing.
Yeah.
You'll hear people say, I don't know what I want. So with the theory of interior design, it helps you basically have a discussion with your client in terms of, okay, what are your preference colors? You see, with that kind of conversation, you know how to merge color schemes to meet what the client wants. You'll know also how to blend materials to create a space that invokes a certain type of mood. You see, that is plays in with how interior design affects someone's mood and behavior. So with the education of it, I feel like it does play a key role in how you give service in this industry.
I agree, yeah.
And now from the theory, you have to put it in practicality. Why I say Buruburu Institute of Fine Art was really, really helpful is because in our coursework, you are told to put together some of these concepts in real life. I'll give an example. At a point in third year, our brief was to design a piece of furniture. You can decide to I decided to put together a sofa set. I regret my choice because
Fundis.
kazi ya fundi ni ngumu. And also it immerses you into that experience of when you're working with artisans.
Yeah.
What kind of experience they also have. So when you're working together with them and you're selecting materials and you're also choosing your price point, you will know this is priced at this point because this is the number of man hours that goes into it.
Yeah.
The way you work with, let's say, mahogany wood is not the same way you will work with mvule. It's not the same way you will work with other hardwoods that take time to mold. So the practicality of it helped you in experiencing the way you will implement your physical skills in the industry. Atukubeba mawe, yes.
I
will say that. But
mawe is stones.
basically. But I'll say in putting together such coursework whereby you get to experience how you work with these materials, also molds you in deciding, am I passionate about this? Like we had fabric design. We had to do tie and dye. We had to deal with different techniques like batik.
Yeah.
So you kind of decide, am I the kind of person who will be dealing with tie and dye in the long term?
Which is a good thing because also what people need to learn is interior design is so wide. You can really fall into whatever niche. You can decide that you want to move into the artisan kind of field or the consultancy kind of side or project management kind of side. Like it's so wide. And I feel like it's actually something I wanted to ask you. Like you mentioned Buruburu was practical and at least you've picked it up and discussed about it.
Yes.
Because I was curious to know how different it was from my experience. So for instance, I went to Maseno University for my interior design degree.
Yes.
And there, we had the practical elements, but it was not very practical. It was not as immersive. Yeah, it was not as immersive as you're trying to explain because for us, it was very open-ended kind of, like for the projects, like select what you want to make if it's because I remember my project I did like beddings. I did a duvet cover and a bed runner and it was this ones of there's someone else who did a sofa, there's someone else who like an armchair sortie.
Yeah.
So it was more like you just try whatever. You do whatever and you do. Okay, it's kind of nice because it allows you the freedom to also see what you want to do, but immersiveness I didn't really feel like. Also still on school, from my personal experience, I would say what education helped me with was more on collaboration and teamwork. I remember how group works were so frustrating because one, I'm an introvert.
Yes.
And then two, when you put in groups, sometimes you realize that there are people who just need to be carried. They're just floating within the group. They never contribute. They never assist.
Yeah.
And you get so frustrated and you think that's the end. Like, let's finish school and I don't need to deal with it. Well,
you will have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it because either it's in the workplace or your first job or whatever. Then you're coming, there are people who don't want to contribute or they want to do the least work. And you guys, it's a team effort.
Yes.
Yeah. So at that time, I never knew the purpose of group work per se. It just felt like you're nagging and giving us a headache. Why not just give us our own work to do?
Yeah, individually.
But now I see
the essence
of group work from an educational point of view. So just to transition in a little bit on your journey, I'd like to understand like the challenges that you faced during your transition from now school into internship or school into your first job.
What I'd say is in school, you are meeting the expectations of your lecturers. Now, transitioning into real life, and basically in school, when you're meeting the expectations of your lecturers, that is reflected on your grade. So when your grade is good, you feel like you're one of the best.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you, the real life, when you go into the job industry. I remember my first time when now we were looking for internships and I went to a certain farm in Westlands. I showed my work, my portfolio. My portfolio was physical then because, again, we were more technically based in BIFA.
Buru, yeah.
And that is technical drawing,
Yeah.
like the draftsmanship kind of work. You will now be humbled and be shown you are just but a small fish in a very big sea of knowledge. And the reflection was
before that, what was the reaction to your portfolio? So here's the portfolio, here's the portfolio. Okay, this is my portfolio, trying to show them What was the reaction or the perception or how are you received?
You're still ripe in this industry.
That's what they told you?
Yes. Oof. I remember the words of the person who I was in the room with. He was like, you're still ripe in this industry. You still do not meet the expectations that we need of even an intern in this line of work. It hits you emotionally first because obviously you're being told there are stages. Emotionally you're feeling like, okay, you do like I have put everything in this and you're still saying I am small.
And in school you're performing, you're top.
In
like
school
you're doing
performing.
Well.
You're seeing the grades that your lecturer is giving you and you're feeling like, hey, I am on the right track.
Yeah.
Going out there, I am now on the top of the peak. No, you are not.
Yeah.
This is technical drawing on paper.
Yeah.
Do you have any skills in ArchiCAD? Very minimal.
Yeah.
Do you have any skills in AutoCAD? None at all. So yes, you are still ripe in this industry. So the first question that comes to mind is, okay, can you guide me to that level whereby I can actually get the skills that are needed? The response is, I don't have the time.
Oof. Okay.
So in your head, you're wondering, as an intern coming out here, I'd like to think, or with the interns that I've worked with, the whole point is get that industry experience.
Yeah.
To get that industry experience, you need guidance. But now you're coming into a firm whereby I think people's priority at that point is meeting the client's needs and meeting the organization's needs, not your needs as an intern.
Yeah.
So it's a hard blow.
Yeah, and to some extent you really do understand, because now coming from a point of view or a perspective of running a design firm, you can feel the balance. Sometimes there's that pressure of running the project, there's money, there's what, and then you're wondering, okay, do I have the capacity
and time
and the time to handhold someone else? You understand? So even like for me, when people ask, I usually tell them I only do one at a time. I remember even yesterday we had a conversation with someone and I had mentioned to them, no, I already have someone who's coming in May, so I don't have an opportunity until the 3 months. Then he mentions to me, oh, I can feel a reluctance from your voice.
Wow.
And I tell him, yes, I'm reluctant, not because I don't want to take you in, but I just have the capacity for one person, you know. So the person you went to see actually told you
it was reality. But at that time, you see, I'm not in this person's shoes. I'm in the shoes of I need to learn.
Yes.
Now, as someone who is running my own design firm, I feel like if I take someone on at a certain point, it will be a disservice to them because I don't have that time to be able to guide them.
And that's what I'm saying. You at that time you feel so bad, like it's such a hard blow. This person is mean, they don't want to contribute, they're not giving back. But there's now the realities of actually running a farm, a profitable farm. You have overheads, you have whatever. Like,
it is, there's the balance that you need to have. But I believe with time and growth, slowly by slowly, you can be able to integrate interns into into your organization whereby you merge them with someone who basically, as they're doing their work, it is also a point of education for the intern themselves.
Exactly.
Even if it is your assistant interior designer, whereby when they're going to procure materials, when they're doing their material schedule,
They carry them along.
you're carrying them along. And in that process, this person is still meeting their goals as they're working, and the student is learning as they go along. Because I'd say even when I got my first job, okay, I'll be honest, I didn't have anyone who held my hand. I think I was just told, because I was taking over from someone else, these are the projects that are ongoing. This is what needs to be done. You know ArchiCAD. At this point, you know ArchiCAD. So yeah, I will only answer your questions as we go along before I exit. But now when that person exits and you take on that role, you feel the pressure. You really feel the pressure.
And actually, I like that you've mentioned about like you've just been left in the sea to figure it out. I remember when I was an intern, I used to ask a lot of questions. Yeah. And how is this? And what? And is this the right thing? Yeah. Because for me, the gap I kind of really saw was in school, you're really not taught materials. You're really not taught materials per se, like how does this kind of tile work with this, how does that go with this, what material, why PVC, why not this wood, why tile, why not, like it's not that comprehensive in my experience. I will not speak for everyone else. And I remember I asked something and the lady told me, Abigail, Google is your friend.
That's why I say.
And I remember from the day she told me that, I told myself, okay, you can choose to be annoyed. You can choose to be entitled, but also understand she also has her pressure. She also has her work and she's tired of helping you. So do as much research as you can, Google as much as you can, ask wherever you can. And then really, when I don't know what to do is when I would ask her, because she looked straight to my face and told me that. And I was like, whew, okay, wow, reality check. No one is here to take
life lessons.
Yeah. So still on that, I wanted to ask, now you've gone into the workforce, you've done your internship, you've gotten your first job. Yeah. How were you able to balance creativity and the technical or the practical aspects or requirements of interior design?
Now, going into employment now, my mind was like, see, I'm the interior designer. My work is to design morning to evening. My work is creativity, morning to evening. Lo and behold, that is not the case. Now, balancing creativity itself and the technical side of it, I came to learn you have to be on site at some point, even as the interior designer. You'll just not sit in front of a computer and work your magic and feel like, oh my gosh, my work is so beautiful. But it doesn't work physically.
On the reality, on the ground, it's not working.
It
does not work.
So I'd say the balance between creativity and the technical side of it, there's an element of teamwork that needs to happen. Because in life in general, you're always learning, you're always evolving. There are points whereby, for example, you'll think you're being creative by putting together a glass cladding feature for an office space. But on the ground, how is that going to work?
How will it be fixed?
How will it be fixed?
How will it look?
Exactly.
How will it, hold?
How is it going to hold together? And you're thinking, oh, that's someone else's work. But it's not really someone else's work. I kind of thank God for my first job experience was not only as an interior designer, but also as a project manager on site. Because you are the lead interior designer and you have to also...
So in that dynamic, you were handling everything for yourself? Drawing, designing, site, procuring, like figure it out.
Now, for procurement, we had a subcontractor who was given the work of implementation. So for me, it's overview of this person's work, making sure the design itself is executed in the manner in which it is expected. So material acquisitions and all that, it was on the subcontractor side. But that's why I'm saying there's a point where you have to work together with other people. Because whatever you're creating has to make sense technically and physically on site.
Yeah.
So when you're working, for example, on an office space and it's a high traffic area and you're putting gloss tiles on the floor, it's not making sense.
And it looks good to you.
For you, it is shiny and it makes the place sparkle. But in real sense, on site, this is a high traffic area. And also a risk to the company, because if you have a client come in, slides, break their leg, that's a legal liability for them, which can also trickle down to you in a company whereby you're the ones who recommended this to be fitted out in our space. So I'd say how to balance it out was through teamwork and collaboration with like the subcontractor, because at that point I had not gotten so much exposure in the industry according to my internship that now when it comes to employment, you're starting to learn some of these things. You're starting to learn, like the way you said, in school they don't teach you the materials, like, oh, this is better in a hot environment compared to a cold environment or things like that. You come to learn it
On the ground.
itself. And in that, by working with different people in the project itself, you also get to learn yourself. Okay, in the next project, this is the brief that you're working with. In this brief, these are the materials I think can work within the project itself. And from there, you're seeing a cohesiveness of delivery to the client when you're working with your contractor. And to some point when they say fake it till you make it, there is a little, I would say, please don't take me wrongly, to some level, to a small percentage, it will work if you work with Google. Whereby if you're, let's say, asked a question on email by your boss and you don't have an answer to it, go to Google.
But now actually still on the Google, or Google is your friend, Google has a lot. How do you balance that this is the truth and this is not the truth? You get, because there's so much information.
Now with that, when you read through something, you'll know like there are things that make sense when you read through it. There are things you'll feel like, okay, yes, this makes sense. That, and you just don't go to one website and feel like, oh, that's the truth of it all. When you're research through different avenues. Research through, I think there's also Google reviews in terms of, okay, I've used this, and this is how it has come out, or this is the result after 3 months or 6 months or things like that. That's information that you can actually utilize.
And actually, speaking of Google, that's one key thing I wanted aspiring interior designers to note. You just don't Google anything and imagine that's the correct information.
Yes.
You also have to sift, where am I getting my information from? Read this article, read this site, A, B, C, D. Then you pick out, you'll be able to tell what's consistent across board. You understand? What's working and what's not. You don't just take everything with face value because someone typed it or someone gave a review on TikTok or on Instagram and you're good to go. It's something that you really also have to have some level of wisdom to agree that this makes sense and this doesn't make sense. Okay. And how about managing client feedback? How were you in your first jobs or internship, were you in a scenario where you've been thrown in and you have to deal with this particular client one-on-one, not your boss, leave alone sitting in the meetings now?
Yes.
RISPA, deal with this.
Yes.
Have you been in such a scenario?
Yeah, I'll go back to what I was explaining. In my first job, I was thrown into a project, an office project. And this office project, the client was a Chinese client. What I'll say from the education of the clients themselves, because it was 3 people that I was working with. There was the MD, there was the head of operations, and the MD's assistant. The head of operations was a lady. This person taught me that speed in a project is essential.
You can't just take your time and decide,
They will not,
I don't have creativity today.
They will not, a client will not move with your pace.
Yeah.
The pace has to make sense. I'll say that. The pace has to make sense. But you have to be quick on your feet.
You can't be overextending and just saying, today I didn't have inspiration.
No.
Yet you've extended beyond like the 3 weeks that was given.
No.
Yeah.
That was not possible. The other thing that the client taught me is you have to pay attention to detail. When it came to handover, or when you get to the point of handover and you're like, we are almost at the end.
Yeah.
Now it's just going through the space. And then from there, we hand over the site to the client. This is the kind of client who would go to the corner of the room and say, there's a hole here that has not been filled out. This is a hole where cockroaches are going to come in. This is a place where insects are going to come to in this office. This has not been done right. This is a client who will inspect the acoustic ceiling and say, this panel is not in line with this panel. Like basically teaching you that what you thought is detail
or good, you have done a fantastic job.
Yes, it is not detail enough. You have to look at the smallest of details in the project. And then also in terms of communication, there was also a lesson there.
What lesson was this? Your key takeaway on communication?
Communication is important. You cannot assume anything. When it comes to brand colors of a company, ask for the brand colors from them. Don't assume that this red is the same as their red in their logo.
Or I saw it on the internet, so I'm going to pick this and it looks like this is going to work. You
cannot do that. Communicate to the client in terms of what you need from them so that as to be able to meet their expectations and also to be able to meet their standards. So in terms of what kind of carpet you're using, the color itself, you have to give samples. Samples are important. If you go basically to the supplier and you just say, I need a red carpet, the supplier will give you a red carpet. The supplier will make their money. You'll pay them for the red carpet. You'll go fit out the red carpet. And the carpet will look so nice to you. And then the client comes and tells you, this is not the red of our company. So remove the carpet.
Yeah. Which is actually interesting. Sorry to cut you short, because I remember like in school, I honestly, I really don't remember having a class or a discussion or a talk on samples. I kid you not, I cannot remember.
There was none.
At all, I can't even remember. The first time I saw, I was like, I need to actually work with my samples and match them together, not just pick them out. Shocking, so shocking, because I remember I learned that experience on samples as an intern. So I've gone into this company, I'm the intern, and the lady puts me on an assignment of a hotel, not a restaurant, hotel block. And she tells me, you'll be working with, let's say, RISPA on this particular project, but when she's fixed on other projects, it's you who's handling it. And remember, she went with me maybe 1 to 3 meetings. After that, the other lady was now fully occupied on another project. Where were?
Fast.
As an interior design intern, having a whole hotel, you don't even know materials. It matters worse, the client is what? The client are civil engineers. So you can't go and tell them, you can't bullshit. You can't go and tell them stories and this is going to work, because then you can dance, finesse some clients and just wiggle your way. No. That one, he knows everything from end to start. And I remember we were picking, I think, tiles for the restaurant. And we picked things, and then he asked me, by the way, this tile, what color for the walls do you recommend for this particular tile? And I quickly just looked at it and was like, this one. The guy turned pink. He's like, based on what? What have you based that decision on? And I'm like, because it goes together. It's like, yeah, how do you know they go together? He's like, you don't seem like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not even an interior designer, and I know you're supposed to bring this and put it here and see if they both go together. You've just told me from your head. How do you know? Rispa, believe it or not, I took now I had the tile sample, but the paints were painted on the wall like small samples.
Yeah.
And I went and took that paint, the one that I put, selected, and I put it against it. Do you know it didn't match?
It is off.
And I'm here on the project trying to advise you on, no, this is the best solution. And I'm feeling like an interior designer, and I was humbled real quick. I think that's the one client who taught me, my friend, you walk around with your samples. You walk around with your samples. And it's something that I think either needs to be integrated in school or something, because it really shocks you when you get out here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So still on that, so you've mentioned about collaboration, you're having different avenues for client feedback, etc. So do you feel, or at what point do you feel like you learned how to effectively communicate?
At what point?
At what point? In a professional setting?
When you learn the basics of communication in interior design industry, is one, have everything in writing.
I like that one.
Have for the betterment of your progress throughout the project, and for the betterment of how you deal with a client, have everything in writing. If it's the samples that the client has approved, have the client sign at the back of the sample, or take a picture of the sample, put together the material document, and have the client sign against it. Because this is going to make the difference between you being blamed for something not working out and you having physical representation of, you actually approved this after this and this. And I emphasize, after a discussion. Not based off of your own ideation of, oh yeah, I am the designer, this and this is what will work. You have to have the conversation with the client and have the conversation based off of facts. The way you said you had to put two things together to see if they work. So communication, I feel like, is so important.
Yeah, how to document it. You have to really document and show that this, because still on that point, I know like there are scenarios where, even as a designer, there are projects where, or there are scenarios where you need to work with a material that you really don't want to and you don't recommend. But at the end of the day, this is your client. You've advised you can use this, you can use this. This and this go together, and they insist, no, I want this one. Yeah. And then later on, you don't have it documented. Later on, they say, but you're the designer, why is it here? Exactly. Now you don't have it documented. Now you look like...
A client can push something that they really, really want, and it doesn't work on their space. And you verbally had a conversation of, I really don't advise this. But now, once you put it because they wanted it and it doesn't work, it is turned around to, you're the professional.
Yeah.
Show me where you advised me.
Yeah.
And you do not have anything to show that you actually advised. So written communication is actually important, because not only just to have a record of, this is the discussion we had, it's also beneficial for the client in the future. Like for residential clients, when you want to do repairs on your home, and this client, you know, there are those people who prefer a certain color, and they will never go outside that color. When they go back to doing their renovation, like let's say you had written down like their color code for their paintwork. They don't have to come back to you to ask, oh, by the way, in the year 2005, when you painted my house, what was the color code?
Even you don't remember.
You don't remember. You've worked through so many colors over the years, you cannot recall. So having a record of the material schedule for this particular client, and during handover, this is a document you give to them, it's actually of importance, because they can go back to it and see, okay, this is the code that we selected it was from this and this supplier. So it's easier to actually get it. So it's beneficial for the client themselves as well.
And for me, what I'd like to add on communication is you'd rather over communicate than under communicate.
Yep.
Don't be tired to confirm, to recheck, to document, to ask, approve. Hey, approvals.
It's important.
Sign, approve, we move to the next stage. And
Yes.
still on that, what I usually advise, like for me personally, I prefer to move from stage to stage of a project after your approval.
Yes.
So either you're going to pay me, so either I've broken down my stages in that you're supposed to approve, that is sign,
Yes,
and pay for the next stage.
Yes.
Or sign and then we move to the next stage.
Yeah.
So if you paid, what were you paying for?
Exactly.
What were you paying
What
for if
are
you
we
didn't like
paying?
it?
Or you will move forward with something that the client is not even planning to pay for.
Exactly.
So that's what we call scope creep. Like they ask, like, okay, let's add a door here. And you're like, yeah, sure, you can add a door, but who's paying for the door to be added? So communication makes sure you are aligned with the client.
Following our conversation today,
Yes.
we are adding door, 2 pieces in this
Exactly.
color, what material.
Following our site review this morning, here are the notes of what we discussed. These are the adjustments you've requested for. This is the budget for those adjustments. Kindly communicate if this is in alignment or we should move forward with it. That is very important.
And you're good to go.
Yes.
So let's take a tip, I think, for this particular segment. Either over communicate,
Yeah.
do not under communicate.
Communicate.
Additionally, put your communication in
In
writing.
writing.
Don't be too tired.
Yep.
Don't be too tired. Great. So I'd like to perhaps take the conversation into a totally different direction, or a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'd like you to maybe tell me the lessons that you learned from your internships. So one, what's the difference between academic critique, which you mentioned a little bit, and the real world feedback? What's the difference? Is it that the academic one is too polite? Is it, like, in your experience, what's the difference?
Oh, it's not too polite. You'll have lecturers who will give it to you straight. I'll give an example. When you are in college, normally at the beginning of the semester in different units, like let's say in technical drawing, you're told to you're given a brief and you're supposed to submit at least 6 sketches. Now, giving 6 sketches is not the easiest thing. Or giving 10 sketches, like in a week, is not the easiest thing. Because sometimes you can have a creative block. But from there, the lecturer picks out the sketch that they like. But in picking out that sketch, there is criticism in it. They critique it. They tell you either you're thinking too small. Now, when someone tells you you're thinking too small,
You don't even know the direction
you don't even know, like, okay,
Where
what do you
to
mean I'm thinking too small? So the lecturer will tell you you're thinking too small. You need to think outside the box. And they will not hold your hand outside of that box. They will not hold your hand to figure out what is thinking too small. I feel like that was helpful to a point because it pushes you creatively to explore other levels of, let's say, okay, this is how I interpreted your brief. Am I interpreting it in a standard way, or am I considering that there are other ways I can implement what you're basically telling me? Like, for example, if a client gives you what exactly, or communicates what exactly they're looking for in the design of their house, there's a way you can interpret it of, or you just need a little bit of paintwork, you just need a few tiles, and you just need curtains. That's it. That's what I think. You're not pushing the boundary of, I'm an interior designer, I'm supposed to go a little bit more above and give my client something that they feel like, oh, this is really, really worth me going to an interior designer. Because equivalently, what we've seen, people actually communicate. See, I can pick a painter, I can pick a fundi for the tiles. Na sineza enda tile and carpet and I buy tile and I buy carpet.
And you can.
And you can. But there is the information and the knowledge that an interior designer has that actually, I feel like how I look at it is consulting an interior designer is an investment into your home, into your office space, into your business, because they have a certain perspective that will help you elevate like your space. So in that sense, I'd say like it was not, there are lecturers who don't give it to you easily. They will give you a harsh response. And there are those who are like, yeah, you're a very good student.
You're doing well.
And then there's the outside life.
Yeah.
And I feel like with lecturers, within the period of time that you've been in school, they've gotten to learn you.
Yeah.
They've gotten to see like, oh yeah, you're an introvert. You don't like talking to so many people. You're more design oriented. But when you're put in the workspace,
there's no that time.
You're a resource to this company.
Yeah.
They will maximize their resource. So you'll not be only, there are places where you'll not only be put as an interior designer, or your work is just in front of a laptop and someone else is going to execute. There are points where your project manager won't be available. Get up, go to site. You've not interacted with clients. You've not experienced the feedback of clients. And I'll tell you the truth. There are points where feedback of clients, again, it is not nice responses of, oh yeah, this is so nice. And in the back of the mind, when a client doesn't like it, they will tell you they don't like it and remove it.
But some don't. Some are unable to actually communicate.
Yes.
Because actually, like for me, you've touched on the academic side of feedback. But when I think about real world feedback, sometimes it's a bit confusing. And I would say because also clients, now you're in the real world and they have very different personalities.
Yes.
There are some who are outright like, I don't like this, Abigail, or those who, are great communicators.
Yes.
Then you have those ones who either they're just those ones of like, but you're the interior designer, why you figure it out kind of scenario. I remember there's one who gave me feedback and told me, I don't like, I sent him a space plan and the only feedback he gave me was, it's not very exciting.
You see?
So, okay, now with the feedback of it's not very exciting, now here as I am, what am I doing next?
Yeah.
Like, did you not like this? Did you not like that? Is it too small? Is it too big? Would you like to remove ABCD spaces? Is this not relevant to you? Like, some give you such blanket statements, and it's your responsibility as an interior designer to try and get that information out. Okay, what you realize, those who are closed off, you have to go ahead and kind of, okay, it's not exciting. What would you like added? Or would you like me to reduce this space? Or what do you mean by this? But there are those, even with the prompting, they get irritated. Like, why are you asking me? You're the professional, not me.
Yes.
So it's,
it's challenging.
Yeah.
But there are points where also in your line of work, you understand that you're supposed to provide a service.
Yeah.
But you're not providing a service at your own expense of, or let me just do it because this person is irritated.
Yeah.
So in the same way, you have to at least try and have a conversation with a client and tell them, okay, you brought me on to be able to execute what exactly you would like. So it's best to have a conversation so as to come to an understanding or a place where you feel like I have put my money in the right place.
Yeah.
So as much as, yes, I understand that it's frustrating for you, it will be beneficial if we have a conversation, even if it's the simplest conversation. Tell me sometimes when you sit down and you think about your space, what are the things that pop up in your mind? It might be annoying to you to ask this question, but it will be helpful to me so I can be able to execute it. And the earlier we have this communication and the faster we have this communication, the sooner I can execute it.
And I think that really ties on. There's something, I think I had an Instagram live last week, and I was talking to people about how to onboard a client when you're an interior designer.
Yeah.
And I remember mentioning this to them, telling them, during that onboarding, don't be tired to understand or to ask, what's your lifestyle? What's your preference?
Yes.
Who lives in this space?
Yeah.
Do you have someone who's disabled? Do you have, because such small details really affect how you're going to execute this design as a whole. You understand? So when you already start noticing a sort of reluctance, you already know this project is not going to head in the right direction. Because you'll always be hitting a wall. Moving in the next stage, there'll always be the attitude of, but why are you asking? But why are you, because I usually say our preferences are so completely different. Yeah. Because I remember there's one client, for example, who was telling me, don't put for me a dining table in my house. And I'm like, why? And he says, because we don't eat at dining tables, so use that space for something else. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So imagine me moving into the assumption like, no, all houses have dining tables. And you said you have 12 children, so I've put for you a 12-seater here. Sit with it. Like, how is it going to work, So at that point, when you're filling them out during the client onboarding session, you can also already see how you're going to be receiving feedback from this particular person of this particular client. And you start assessing, okay, this one needs a push. This one openly communicates. This one needs step-by-step approval. They want, I've done this, I've done this, say yes. There are those who are like, you know what, after you reach a certain milestone, involve me. In between, I don't want to know. I don't. So it's really important to know also, what are your timelines or your milestones, or how do you guys all prefer to get feedback from your client.
And to add to that, I came to learn clients also have different money personalities. There are those who basically their money personality is, I have the money, I can spend it, and I have a wide array of options that I want. Like, I will see a certain kind of dining table at a certain location and be like, I want this in my house.
I don't care how much.
Now, you as the professional need to know how to handle that money personality. There's the one who'll be like very stringent on their budget, whereby, the coffee table costs 30,000. There's no coffee table worth 5,000. And you're like, there is, but this and this is what is against the coffee table that is 5,000 versus this and this is what is against the coffee table that is 30,000. So with basically the experience that you gain slowly with interacting with different people, you also get to learn their money personality. And I in the past, it used to be something that, I'll be honest, it was an irritating thing, because I'm like you're coming to me as a professional to basically get help in something that you want to invest in. The investment will help you long term, because one core aspect about my business is I just don't want to turn around projects like you have a space that only lasts you, let's say, a year, then you're back again doing repairs, doing renovations. I want you to feel like you're investing into your property long term. You will look at your home and feel like, I have gotten my money's worth out of this space. What I put into it was actually worth it, which is actually very important. So slowly, I got to learn, like, okay, people have different money personalities. There's someone who will see a table that's worth 350,000 and be like, but Nimbao, it's just wood. Why is it?
Or even you tell them, this coffee table is 30,000 bob, and they're used to buying coffee tables for 1 million bob.
Exactly.
And they're like, this cheapskate. So, what do you mean 30,000 bob?
So there are those who will find the value in the the number on the coffee table versus the person who actually looks at it like, okay, the way it's been put together, the craftsmanship, the finishing is worth X amount of money. So by working with different clients, by working with different team members, you get to understand some of, because there's something that I won't see and I will communicate with you as someone who I work with, and they'll tell you, but this is this person's money personality. And you'll be like, oh, okay.
So I actually like that, because actually I have never thought about money personalities, and, and I feel like I need to just sit and marinate in this and take it home today. I think that's my takeaway from today.
Okay.
Because not only will it apply on your client, but also your team.
Yes.
You can send Abigail in the field to procure for this particular project, and their money personality is this.
Yes.
So it's not even in alignment, or they're just too rigid because of that's how they are, and you keep wondering, why do they keep sending me this kind of samples?
Yes.
Like, why do they keep sending me things that don't make sense?
Yeah.
Ooh, thank you for that.
You're most welcome.
That's a good, and I've even written it, lesson, money personality. So I'm also just taking notes as we go. Yeah, because it's a learning experience from all of us. Yeah. Good. Also, still on that, now understanding there's a money personalities, there's different personalities of clients, even your team. What do you think the value of teamwork and collaboration is?
In teamwork and collaboration, I have come to learn that some of the greatest ideas can come from different people in your team. Very different people in your team.
It doesn't have to be you.
It does not have to be you. You
Okay.
can be the lead project manager, but you have to have one thing which I feel like is very important. I always come back to communication. Being able to listen is very, very important. Listen to your painter. Listen to your mason. Listen to your electrical engineer. Because sometimes
also with discernment, but still, you need to listen a bit more.
Yes, you need to listen a bit more. Because the ideas for you to be able to deliver a good project to your client sometimes doesn't have to come from you, the way you said it. It can come from, okay, you've put together a very good mood board, and you're in the process of executing, you find a point where you get a challenge, like there's a certain material you are really waiting for, and now it's not available.
Like
I think
today
we had a conversation about that. And you now, from the supplier's end, from telling you, like, now close to the way you were telling me, like close to your deadline, this thing is not available.
On the day of delivery.
On the day of delivery. Now, if you sit with this problem by yourself and you're now raking your mind of, okay, this person failed me. If you focus on this person failed me, you're not getting to a solution.
You're just wallowing in the problem.
You're marinating in the problem.
Marinating and sipping through.
Exactly. But now on site, remember you had a work schedule. There is a technical person somewhere who is waiting for you to bring materials. You can never end up having a conversation with this person and saying, hey, this thing has failed, this material is not showing up. And maybe this individual knows there's somewhere else where there's something very close to what you want that can actually work. And you have a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
So communicating and also listening to your team is actually also
and
important.
also imagining that someone else can give a solution. I really like what you said. Your ideas may not necessarily be the best. It's a teamwork.
Yes.
This person may bring in this kind of value. You're bringing this kind of value, and it helps the team grow and thrive.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you've selected materials, you're working with fundis, you're communicating well. So how did you, or how would you say your journey has been in developing confidence on presenting your ideas to clients?
In developing confidence, I feel like over time, the places that I've worked and the people I've worked with are the ones who've brought me out of my little comfort zone of, okay, I just want to design it. I'll explain it to someone else for them to present it. but it can't work like that.
Like when the person presenting is taking the hit, I'm not there.
Yeah, like I want minimal risk.
Accountability.
Let me minimize the
My
risk.
risk.
Because remember when basically you're brought, when for me, when I started working, I was thrown into a project. And the one thing I realized in that project is everyone is calling me. Oh, this needs to be done. What do we do? Okay, there's these materials that need to be on site. How is it getting here? Okay, the management of the building will not let us work past this point. What do we do?
And there's limitations of noise.
Yes.
By a certain time, you can't be doing this. Materials maybe can't be taken through the lift at a certain time.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So you realize there's a certain level of responsibility you have, which sometimes can be scary, but you have to realize it is here. You can't run away from it. So how exactly do you address it? So building your confidence can be built through your environment, or through the people who are around you, or even through your client.
How? So let's say the people around me. So we are here around you.
Now
how
we
are
are
building
in
that?
We are in a client. We are together.
If it's a client meeting, let's
It's
say
a
there's
client
person
meeting.
here,
Right?
and we are presenting.
We are presenting.
This is the mood board now.
Yes. Now the client asks you a question. Everyone else looks at you. You have to speak up. You also have to build that courage of.
So how do you develop that confidence? How?
In that moment, I'd say, put your idea across. Right? There are places where you will fumble. You will, but it's a lesson.
Yeah.
In that
Don't be
family,
scared.
yes. You remember that you said, like, basically you had to have a conversation with an engineer who knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And you at that point,
Don't know nothing.
you were not that seasoned.
Yeah.
But you learned something in that moment because he gave you the opportunity to speak. In that speaking, yes, there was an error, but you learned. Work with your samples.
So I'm picking something very interesting from you, even from the environments, because sometimes you can feel like, let's say when you're running a team, and you have team member A, B, C, D, and you're just like, A is not able yet. A does not speak to clients. Okay. You've never given them the opportunity to go and speak in front of the client. Yes. So are you helping them build
or hurting them?
Interesting. You're not helping?
You're not helping
Okay,
them.
if I'm the person A, I also see people going to meetings, coming back. I've never, please, can I go for this meeting? Can I try and take you guys through this? Whatever. If ABC person is not comfortable with you presenting, you can ask them, oh, by the way, can I present this to you, to the team internally first before we go to the presentation? You see, you also need to have some level of initiative, some level of confidence to also want. You see, because the easiest person to hold accountable is you. I can't hold you accountable before I hold myself accountable. Because you may decide, I'm never going to change and I'll never give you the opportunity. Then what? You understand? So I really liked that aspect. I'd not taken a look at it from that perspective, but also the people around you can help build you or break you down. One thing that maybe I can say from my perspective of building confidence was, I think for me, now going back to the scenario or the workplace where this lady is telling me, Google is your friend. Now I'm being sent to meetings. I'm the youngest lady. First, I'm the only lady in the meeting. I am the youngest. I've just left school. And then I'm super tiny. I was way tinier than this. And then everyone on the meeting was an engineer. So they used to be like 3 civil engineers, I remember, for that particular project. There was 1 MEP. And then I can't remember the other person. It was a project manager, if I remember correctly. And I'm going to the meeting, and I think he used to just want to torment me, just to prove you don't know what you're doing and your boss is sending you here. And we'd just have a random meeting. Sometimes the agenda is not really mine, and he'd throw it to me like, Abigael, and what's your professional perspective? Oh my God. What do you do? What do you say? So I came to learn, this guy on meetings tries to throw me under the bus or to like shake me a little. So what I used to do, those meetings used to be on Tuesdays. So even in the office, we labeled it Fever Tuesday because I always used to leave those meetings with an actual fever. I used to literally an actual fever. I survived through the day. It used to be at 2:00. By the time I'm going home, I'm just walking, going to catch a mat, and I literally my ears are hot. Not in my head. No, those illnesses from your head. Physically, I used to fall sick every Tuesday at 2:00. And I told myself, you know what? Okay, either I'm going to swim or I'm going to sink. And I told myself, you know what? Construction, there's no surprise in construction. Rispa, there's always a schedule. Next week we're doing tiles. This week there's painting being done.
Yes.
Next week we're doing maybe chiseling for electrical points, ABCD. So I learned to ask what works are being done on site this week.
Exactly.
Then I'm like, okay, there's A, B, C, D. I would research, okay, for tiles. What am I supposed to know about installation of tiles?
Yes.
I would research. Then I had now another colleague who was a bit more helpful.
Yeah.
And I would ask her, I'm going for the site supervision for tiling work. What am I supposed to ask them? And she told me, actually, when you go stand at a certain blah, 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 check ABCD, do this. If you maybe gonga like this and it's sounding hollow, there's something wrong with that tile. If they've not put the tile strips like that. So by the time I'm going, I used to go with confidence now. Because you have the knowledge.
Yes.
There's no surprise. I'm not just going to decide today. The agenda was tiles and they decide that it's going to be, we're talking about roofs.
Yeah.
So how I built my confidence is, one, ask what the agenda of the meeting is.
Yes.
Prepare. I tried as much as possible to Google what I could, to ask what I could. Then I would ask now my colleagues, I'm going for this meeting. This is the agenda. This is what I found out about ABCD information. What else should I be ready for?
Yeah.
What angle may he come up with? So I'd go for the meeting and he'd try to throw things at me and I'm like, no, I don't approve this. Remember, he was asking me from your, professional perspective, what is your opinion? And be like, no, I don't approve this. Imagine it quickly shifted to, this little girl is disapproving our things. How dare you?
Disapprove.
I remember one engineer telling me, and this is maybe 8 years or 9 years ago now in another project. And he tells me, how dare you disapprove? How dare you tell me that? And I've been in the industry for 30 years.
But you're not challenging this person's professionalism or time in the industry. You're giving your input from your own perspective.
That no, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
This is not going to work. And I kept saying, this is not personal. A and B. Now you see, I've learned to get now the facts in my hand.
Yeah.
So I'm telling him A and B can't work because of this. No, but what then he asks me, and you, what do you know? What are you telling us?
You'll have those kinds of people.
And you sit there, you remember you're in a setting where you also have to wusa.
Yeah.
You're a woman. They'll again say she's too emotional.
Exactly.
She's too this, or she's not seasoned, she's reactive.
Yes.
So you're like,
keep composure.
You're trying to hold your composure.
Yes.
And when you leave that meeting, the things you would say, you're running away. I should have told him this, I could have done this, but you've reeled it in
reel it in.
Yeah.
And work from a place of facts.
Yeah. So over time, I learned that he stopped challenging me because I think sometimes he, even now this particular second scenario, he would do it just to rattle me because what I've experienced in my career is typically I found myself in projects where I'm the only woman or in scenarios where I'm the only woman in the room. Mark you, I'm the only young woman in the room. So most of them you'd see are people maybe in 55 and above.
Yes.
I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
So they're trying to, they're showing like,
you're a small person.
What are you telling me here? Yeah.
You're a young person.
So for me, how I built my confidence is try and learn and understand as much as possible what is the agenda, what do they need to achieve, what has been done. Sometimes even ask on site, nitumie any picture, send me some photos I see. So you can already see, there's going to be a problem here, and you can ask.
Yes.
In scenarios where you can afford it, what I usually say sometimes, there are projects of mine where I go before the meeting.
Exactly.
I go to the meeting, I have a meeting with my team or myself before the meeting, and we quickly look, okay, what looks like there's going to be a problem? This looks like a problem. Okay, what are we going to do? I don't know the solution. You do know, you don't know the solution. Okay, let's ask the contractor side chat.
Yeah. What
can we do?
Yeah.
By the time we're going to the meeting, this and this is how it's solved. You see, you're seen as a team player, like you're contributing, like you have input, like you're like you're really adding value to the conversation.
I think it's important. And I think just to add on to what you've said, being a woman in this industry, I think you have to prove yourself twice as much compared to, because remember, like it's a male dominated industry. So sometimes the way you said, you're deemed as emotionally reactive, or you don't have the strength to handle a team of men. But going off of the knowledge that you have, and also the way you said, like going before your meeting, doing your own survey, doing your own evaluation, and even with your team members, different perspectives can give a solution to a problem. So leaning on your team members as well, and like having a discussion with the contractor. Remember, you're looking for the solution. You're not looking to emphasize the problem. So going into a meeting prepared, doing your research, talking to the people on site, looking at the different avenues and giving the different options of, okay, these are the options that we have for this problem, vis-a-vis the costs that will be implicated for solving this problem. Because remember, cost is usually a key
factor
thing. When they hear it's going to be expensive, bells start ringing in the head of you are costing us too much money. So looking at the various options and knowing the costs against those options is of importance. So you have to have double the preparedness, even as a woman, going into some of these.
Ready. It's like, what?
You're ready. And you're ready from different angles. Of, what do you know? Come at me this angle,
I'm ready.
What do you know? I know. This and this and this is what the fact is, versus this and this and this is the solution.
Because you really get frazzled. And your confidence really shrivels when they ask you things you don't know. And you don't know the solution, and everyone is looking at you, and you just sound like you don't know. There are scenarios where you can be upfront, like, but now when it catches you now in another angle, you just say, you know what, I don't know how to handle ABCD. Give me a day to sort it out. I'll give you feedback. Sometimes don't over what's the word, over promise
and under deliver.
You understand? There are those that here I can't go with I don't know. And there are those if I go into this meeting and I don't have the answer, Aki,
it's going to be a do or die.
It's going to be a do or die. So finally, on lessons learned from internships or your first working experience, what do you think is important to bridge these gaps on classroom learning and industry demands?
One, I think there should be more technical learning involved in the educational space. And when I say technical learning, I feel like give them, like in the coursework itself, include actual real life briefs or case studies, if possible. If you can communicate with an interior design company, and you don't have to give specifications of the client themselves, the names or locations, but like something they've worked on before that can be used as a case study. That is something I think that can actually help students be prepared for the real life work that we need to do. The other part is, if possible, of which it can be something that can be a discussion to the level of implementation. The way we have workshops in the industry, why not bring these workshops into the educational space, whereby you're bringing in professionals, whereby they can actually sit with students and tell them, okay, we have a workshop for a week or 2 weeks. And in the beginning, this is the brief. And as you're going through it, in creating a mood board, in delivery of a presentation to a client, give the opportunities to the students to do this in front of you or in front of like a panel, so that they can actually be able to learn, I need to know more about materials. I need to know that this client is located in Kinangop, right? Okay, what kind of materials will work in Kinangop? What kind of budget are we looking at it? What is the environment in Kinangop or where this house is located? You see, with that, you're actually refining them a little bit better and bringing them into the industry with this kind of knowledge. And to some level, provide, no, I don't know if the right word is provide. Give that environment of pressure. Because
like real budget,
yes,
budget constraints, time constraints,
and resources. This is what we are working with. And also give them that environment of, okay, you need to be malleable or adjust. You think on how to adjust to the constraints that are there. Okay, so you have a site that is being implemented or you're in the implementation stage, and basically your tiling guy is nowhere to be found.
Then what?
You can't go crying to your boss, mtu tile hayuko.
So
your boss will tell you the tile guy is not there. So you either go in with, okay, so the tile guy is not there. I found this other person who I've gone to look at their work and they've done XYZ. And basically we can start off by him doing this square area and seeing how he implements on this square area. And then from there, be able to see, like, can he finish off the whole job? And also be able to speak up. If the timelines for the project doesn't make sense to you, or if you see the way the work is going to affect the timelines, communicate it. Communicate
ahead of
it
time. You don't wait again for the client to ask you or your boss to ask you, and they're like, oh, by the way,
we're not going to meet.
We are not going to deliver tomorrow. Like, what do you mean? You'd rather, it's easier for someone to speak to a client like ahead of time, let's say 1 week in advance or 2 days in advance, and say, we are nowhere close to finishing. We'd like to request a 3-day extension. They give you a lot more grace than, oh, sorry, well, we can't meet you tomorrow.
It will throw off the client.
It
will throw off your client and it will throw off your boss. So with basically communication of timelines, how you can go about it is you have a work schedule. The work schedule is showing you the different checkpoints or the different points where this is the deliverable that's supposed to be done by X number of days. Have we gone beyond those number of days? What's made it go beyond those number of days? Is it something that can be adjusted and managed in regards to what's happening next? In terms of, okay, can people work nights so that the next stage is not pushed forward again? Or is it a situation whereby there is no avenue of
sorting of now?
And we just need to extend the number of days and tell the client and tell my boss, because the materials that were supposed to be delivered, let's say at the beginning of the month, were being delivered at the mid of the month. So this is going to affect our timelines. So communicating, and don't be afraid to communicate, thinking that, oh, if I don't say that, okay, we are not going to meet the said deadline, it's going to be implicated on me, and keeping quiet with it, it's just going to make things worse.
It makes things worse. It makes you look very unprofessional. And even like for me, like my team, I usually say, I don't adjust problems. Come with a problem and a solution.
Exactly.
At least I'll tell you, the solution of yours will not work. But
you thought
let's do ABCD. Others will just have whiners. People who are always whining, complaining, oh, this is not working. This is your problem because it's your farm. Kind of.
You're always the problem solver. In a whole team.
Empower people. Free people up. Empower them. Let them be able to do things for themselves. Let them be able to try, because over time they'll practice and practice and practice, and then they'll get a lot better with it. So I want to go a bit on a tangent and ask you, what were some of the surprises that you encountered at either your first internship or your first job?
One of the surprises was how there's still a gap between your school knowledge and your application on the field. There's still a gap. A gap whereby...
Give in terms of percentage, what would you rate the gap as? What percent? How big or small is it?
I feel like it's a big gap.
What percent?
I think I'll give it an 80% gap.
I would also.
I would give
it's
it an
not
80%.
Below 70.
Because
it's a shocker.
It's a very big shocker because as a person who is leaving school and entering the work environment, that gap is you playing catch up. You playing catch up with, my lecturer is no longer praising me. My client is the one who's telling me your work is substandard. Basically I don't know materials, or like it's playing catch up with, I have to rein in my emotions and choose emotional intelligence of, I can't blow up, or I can't
just burst out crying
in a site, or I can't kemea a fundi who doesn't take direction from a woman.
Kemea means rebuke.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll translate for you.
There's a big gap. That's why I feel like I'm saying there's the level of implementation that can be done in the school setup, like through workshops. Give people that bring that environment whereby they realize, okay, there's another level of learning beyond the books, beyond my lecturer, that needs to be brought in for me to be prepared for the industry itself. But I also remember, I don't know if this was said in school, like, I will teach you a 20%, 80%.
I thought it was a lie, for sure.
For me, I usually thought like maybe it's you, and I'm no offense to any lecturer whatsoever, but I usually thought like it's you trying to simplify your workload, and like you have to. But I feel like
But you're right. Yeah, you actually think like they're trying to reduce their work. Like, why are you not teaching us?
Yeah.
Why are you not? Because I remember even, sorry on that, there's a lecturer who was teaching us CAD work, and he was teaching us ArchiCAD, and he never taught us that ArchiCAD. He told us, go. This is the software you're supposed to do. Install it. Draw for me a space plan next week. And used to be like, this person is lazy. It's what...
I'll tell you, I used to look for people to teach, not within the school, outside of school, for people to teach me ArchiCAD. Like when I started working, I would ask sometimes it might seem cringe, but I would pull my chair to someone who is actually working on a drawing and sit and look at what they're doing and ask questions. Yes, if someone actually feels like, okay, you're distracting me from my work, say, okay, I'm sorry, can you teach me this and this at a later time? And even to some point, I understand that the learning has to come from you, because in real life, the initiative of you moving to the next stage in your career, for you to be able to become better, for you to have a competitive edge, you have to do a self-audit of yourself.
Exactly.
If you're used to staying in a cocoon whereby you feel like, okay, I prefer staying in the office and doing design work, do a self-audit and ask yourself, is this going to help me reach the goals that I want as an interior designer in this country? Is this giving me an edge, or is this making me more marketable in the industry by just sitting in the office and doing design work itself? So you have to do a self-audit as well. So I feel like that gap, there can be assistance, and so there can be self-initiative.
And you also can't sit and rely that this person has a bigger advantage than I do. For example, I personally had an advantage because my dad taught me ArchiCAD. My dad taught me how to draw technical drawings on ArchiCAD, etc. He would teach me. We'd sit at the dining table and he'd teach me, and he would tell me, I'm giving you this work. You will hand it over to me tomorrow. And we'd go back to the dining table and tell me, okay, this you've not done this. In fact, you're wasting too much time. Here are some shortcuts. Control Shift D, Control Shift whatever kind of scenario. Okay, he's like, just practice, because once you're used to your hand quickly control your hand, this one is moving, this one, so it's very easy to maneuver and do your drawings really quickly. But now if you sit and say, okay, now, but that one was taught by her dad, or the lecturer in school didn't teach me, I think to some level that experience in school was to teach you, by the you have to figure yourself out when you're out there. And at that time, you don't really see it and you don't know it.
Yeah.
So even from this perspective, I'm wondering, should school really change that part or not?
to reduce the percentage, because remember, we are not spoon feeding.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm being harsh. I hope I'm not being harsh. But we are not spoon feeding, because life at the same time has not spoon fed you into building your company. Life has not spoon fed me into building my business. I literally had to ask the questions, put myself into those rooms and ask, like, okay, can I be there for the meeting? I just want to be a fly on the wall and listen. And sometimes it took me to actually tell where I was working as a consultant, tell my boss, I want to be the lead project manager in this project.
Yeah.
And actually say why I can handle it. Put yourself out there. If you fall, okay, you've fallen. Get up, learn from it, adjust. And to this very day, I will tell you, there are times I have fallen in my own business itself. There are times I have failed. But those failures, you sit alone in a quiet room, hold yourself, have the conversation with yourself in your head and tell yourself, okay, this happened with a client.
Yeah.
What have I learned from it?
Yeah.
What do I need to adjust in my business? Or what do I need to adjust in my communication with my client, or how I approach XYZ? So to reduce that percentage, you can actually implement things at school, but at the same time, there's the self-initiative that also needs to come from you.
So just on that note then, what would you say, what would be your takeaway or your advice to aspiring interior designers?
Don't look for shortcuts.
Elaborate.
I'll basically say what we've experienced in recruitment is people coming into the industry expecting, I want to be paid 350,000 per month because my creative skills are so good. I am a creative. I know how to use SketchUp. I know how to use 3D Max. I know how to combine ArchiCAD with 3D Max. I have refined these skills. Look at my renders. Your renders are great. Your ability to deliver photorealistic images is so good. But it's not just that that will give you that leverage of being able to, yes, there are people, I'll admit, there are people out here who can be able to give design work and be paid large amounts of money. But ask them how long it has taken them to get to that point. So don't look for shortcuts. And you will need to put in the time.
You need to actually putting in the time. There's no shortcut for that.
There's no shortcut for it. You'll need to put in the time. Be willing to learn. Be willing to listen to when someone tells you you're not good at communicating with a client. And when someone tells you that, it is not to reduce you as a person. It's to highlight this is where you can work on, and this is how you can work on it. It might be uncomfortable for you because you're not used to that kind of communication, but it is a skill that you might need whereby, okay, I design. You need to present now. So that skill comes into play because presenting is not just standing there and telling you, this is what your home will look like, and then folding your laptop and walking
going
out,
Yeah.
the client will have questions.
Yeah.
The client will have hesitations. How are you walking them through those hesitations and questions? So it's a matter of refinement. The critique of a client saying, I don't like it, and saying it with a cringe face is not to say that, oh, you are not able to do XYZ. It's them telling you, I don't like this, and you looking back and asking, okay, so what don't you like about this?
Yeah.
What specifically can we work on?
Yeah.
Being open to that criticism. And also I'd say I feel like in the industry itself, it builds your emotional intelligence. It helps
Or makes you even aware that you don't have it.
It makes you aware.
Yeah.
It will make you aware if you do have it, if you don't have it.
And if you need to work on it.
And if you need to work on triggers. There are people who will be triggered by being told you're small. And you will be set off.
Yeah.
Okay, physically, yes, you're small.
Yeah.
But your physicality does not challenge your ability to work.
But now that one thing has set you off, you can't focus on that meeting, you can't think, you can't present,
you will think, you're done. Oh, this industry is not for
terrible.
Me. Yeah. I am the worst interior designer ever. I am the worst project. No. Maybe this person is just trying to help you in the hard way to have a thicker skin.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing I would say I'd like to tell aspiring interior designers. And it's hard because even me, sometimes it catches me where a client or a certain group of clients really test your patience.
Yes.
Or even your team members, they test your patience.
Yep.
You understand?
Yeah.
And you feel like, okay, now how am I going to handle this in a way that's most productive? You know, but you try not to get thrown off.
Yeah.
You know, have a bit of thick skin so that you're not thrown off at every instance.
Yeah.
You know, you have to understand there are areas where you need to blow up.
Yeah.
There are those that you really don't need to. Yeah. Also, one thing now, as we close off, I would like to tell aspiring interior designers, even as you go into the workspace, you're feeling like you're small or not. Remember, you're the professional in the space. Can you sit in that space and honor it? Yeah. Research where you can, learn where you can, ask where you can. But when you go into the spaces, sit like you deserve it, because sometimes you'll go into the space and, for example, they decide they're just not going to follow your drawings, and they'll tell you, even though tunafanyanga, this is how we do it. You know, then what are you going to do? Sometimes it takes a bit of courage for you to sit, take a marker pen and draw a complete huge X on their wall and say, when I come tomorrow, have this demolished, and you leave. There's nothing they can do. They can't start cleaning that thing up. That paint needed to be painted. You've spoken to them the first time. Please, Rispa, could you change this? Is not the right code? No, that's the one we bought. Kindly, could you what? No. Third time you've tried to handle the situation as professional as possible. Just go and mark it out. And they're going to paint it. Kwani,
it needs to.
You know,
you also need, you need to know when to take your stand. You need to know when to take your stand in your team, so that you know, basically, you can be able to communicate in your team. You need to be able to take your stand with your client in a professional level, whereby you know very well if they need to basically adjust something that is a risk. I'll give an example. I say the areas you do not play around with in our line of work or in construction is structure, plumbing, and electricals. Those are areas, do not take any shortcuts. Do not compromise. If you know very well, your main cable needs to be a certain kind of cable, and your client is like, no, I've been told that you can connect this and this, and it will still serve your house. Be ready to say no. This is going to be a risk. This is going to compromise your home, and even put it in writing. And be able to say, if you choose to go in this direction, it is going in this direction against the advice of us. Have it in writing as well. Put
And
it
it's
in
good
your...
that you've said us, because there's you, there's the MEP engineer,
Yes.
there's the architect, there's the structural engineer.
Yes. And be able to actually tell them, these are the risks that are there. Your house can burn if you compromise your main electrical cable supply to your house. Be able to tell them, these are the risks that are there. Are you willing to be able to actually go ahead with these risks in mind? And that's why I tell you, communication and also having things in writing is important, because you're responsible. Your responsibility is to the client, and you're responsible for this person's asset. You're responsible for something that is really large. And it's not a small responsibility.
Correct.
So being able to take your stand, because if you're not able to and just say okay to everything, what does that okay mean? You see,
What implication does it have?
what implication does it have? So it is important to build that's why I say you're building your confidence in different positions, and in building those confidence, that confidence, I do deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And in deserving to be here,
you sit in that position.
sit in it.
Yeah.
Know that your knowledge is important.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why you spent those 3 years in school. There's a reason why you've been working in the industry for, let's say, 5 years, 10 years. You're learning from people above you, and also those people are telling you within your team, this and this and this is what you need to adjust within yourself so that you can succeed. Be willing to listen and have an open mind. Sometimes delivery doesn't come with flowers.
Yeah, but you listen.
But look for that message.
Yeah, what were they trying to communicate?
Exactly.
So based on that, today we've had a very interesting session.
Yes.
On lessons, challenges, and surprises that interior designers, myself and Rispa, have had between your first internship or first employment and what you were being trained in school, back at school. Yeah. So I'd like to ask our viewers to share their experiences as well. Tell us what you've learned. Tell us your surprises, your challenges, your experiences. We want to also learn. We don't want this conversation to just be one way from us to you.
Yes.
Every day is a learning lesson, and we'd really love to hear back from you. Yeah. Additionally, we will be posting this on our social media. You'll find us on YouTube. You'll find us on Instagram, on TikTok, and on LinkedIn. Take time to listen to this. Also, we'll upload it on our podcast platforms, which is relatively new. So we are very excited about that. Take time to listen to it, because one of the key things I wanted to mention for aspiring interior designers is learn from others.
Yeah.
That's one proactive step you can take. Learn from others. Don't rely on school only. Look for internships. Look for mentorships. Learn from others. You can listen to other people's experiences if you don't have all those other opportunities. Yeah. So I'd like to encourage you to submit. Comment yetu isikuwe imenyamaza. Don't make our comment section very quiet. Yeah. And also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Rispa.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. It was a random, hello posting, asking for people to come forward to contribute to this conversation, and you willingly have participated in such short notice, and you've given your all, and we are really grateful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So until next time, see you.